The Prigozhin affair, Coda. Um, a soldier does not exist to die, but to win. This principle is a principle of right, as distinguished from a legal principle. Um, this principle comes into conflict with another principle, which is that it is right to kill a soldier in warfare. All the difficulty of the Prigozhin affair proceeds, it seems to me, from the unabsolute character of the second statement. It's right to kill a soldier, but it's not right to kill somebody who's Ukrainian, American, or Russian, or any other kind of person who isn't a soldier. But that's not an absolute right, in the sense that there's a discretion of the generals of how they deploy the soldiers. So hinc ille lacrimae, from there, all these tears. The dispute then is that Prigozhin and I think also the other general who was disappeared had a difference of opinion about how the soldiers should be used. So that they thought, so for instance, standing on the battlefield and saying these soldiers haven't been reverently buried, this is a sign that the general Shogu and the other general that he's criticizing have not been fulfilling their duty as people that have discretion, that have a discretion in how to use troops, even though they may not have broken the law. They didn't, according to the way Prigozhin sees it, nonetheless, they did not act rightly, exactly because of the tension that I just mentioned between the fact of that a soldier can rightfully be killed in battle, but that at the same time, a soldier does not exist to die, but to win. So that's a very, it must be taken that the fact that the soldier, again, it must be taken that the fact that the soldier can be rightfully killed is not absolute. It can't simply be used in any way. It must be modified by the discretion of the generals, which then means that whatever rules you have, ultimately you have to rely on that you have a good general who has the interest of the soldiers at heart, and the interest of the soldiers is to win. So I think also with regard to this distinction, let's just make it clear when the distinction between right and legal propriety. So, for instance, when Eichmann was tried in Israel after the war, Agamben points out that he was tried in something called the House of Judgment. So legal judgment was passed. But the House of Judgment in contradistinction to House of Justice. So it's not a question, so we have a question of right or justice on the one side and legality on the other side. And the legality always comes to a limit that it's a formalization. There's rules, sometimes bright line rules, sometimes rules that are clear, sometimes rules that have to be construed, or you have to figure out what they mean in a very super subtle way. But there's rules. But ultimately, the final issue is the right will of the ones who were enforcing those rules. So Dugin has said this way. He said, Prigozhin and Surovikin had the point. What they were, the corruption they were against, they were in some way right. But at the same time, he regards Putin as carrying out the war, as the on behalf of Russia, so that even if there's some internal disputes, and even if both sides had something right, one has to take the whole picture into account. I guess one last comment is this sense that we can also apply this same criterion that was applied to Shogu and to the other Gerasimov, the other general who was criticized for their management of the military, who are still in place. We could apply this same criticism to Biden with respect to Biden sending not just munitions, but also mercenaries, American mercenaries to Ukraine, with the sense that they're on something like a safari, so that since the Russians that they'll be fighting are combatants, that it's therefore legal for them to kill them indiscriminately. But that's not true. It is true that it's legal, but it's not true that it's right, you see. So that's exactly how we should weigh the issue, is that there's this legality, but the issue of right must ultimately fall back on the issue of the character of the one making the decisions, and it can't be handled by any pure formalization or objective rule.